Good morning. In the Arctic, you don't live by the clock, you live by the light. That's what they say in Tromsø. And you know, when you first hear that, it sounds almost poetic, almost mystical, until you're awake at 3 a.m. in July, eating cold herring and wondering if it's breakfast or dinner. That's when it hits you. This isn't a metaphor. This is survival. We're sailing in the Arctic Circle now. Cross that line, that invisible line where time starts behaving badly, where people have found remarkable ways to live in a place that by most standards should be unlivable. Today we're going to discover the real-life experience up this far north. We'll talk about reindeer and rhythms, about midnight sun and polar night, and about the people who managed to thrive in the strangest light imaginable. Some are shepherds, some are politicians, some are just figuring out how to raise kids in a place where the sun doesn't come up for months at a time. Let's start in Tromsø, often called the gateway to the Arctic. It's home to about 70,000 people, a university, a cathedral, a couple of breweries, and more research into human biology and polar survival than just about anywhere else on Earth. And from late November to mid-January, the sun never rises. Now, this isn't total darkness. It's not like being in a coal mine. You get a kind of blue twilight at noon, but it messes with you. People report trouble sleeping, odd eating habits, mood swings, some deeply existential fridge raids at 4 a.m. So, of course, Tromsø has become a hub of international excellence in research into circadian rhythms, those natural cycles that regulate sleep, alertness, and body temperature. Now, in normal places, your circadian rhythm follows the sun. It's your internal body clock. It's a 24-hour cycle that tells you when to wake, when to eat, when to sleep, when to repeat. Scientists first discovered it back in the 1950s by shutting people away in total darkness for weeks at a time. And amazingly, even in total darkness, the body kept a steady rhythm, as if we have a built-in timer. That's the reason jet lag hits so hard. You change your watch, but your body doesn't. Your circadian rhythm is still tuned into your old time zone, and it can take days to catch up. Now imagine that confusion, but the sun doesn't rise at all. It's been found that people here in Tromsø, and even further north, places like Svalbard, often develop their own internal seasons. More active in summer, slower in winter. And a recent study from UiT, the Arctic University of Norway, found that residents adapt over time, becoming more attuned to light levels inside rather than outside. Since the sun isn't doing its usual job, people take control of the lighting themselves. So they use bright artificial light in the mornings to simulate a sunrise. They use dim lights in the evening to help signal to the brain that it's time to wind down. Some even use light therapy lamps to boost their mood, boost their energy levels. But what's interesting is that these residents don't stick rigidly to the clock. Instead, their routines shift based on how their body feels. It's more relaxed, it's more flexible. Researchers noted that locals who embraced this approach reported better sleep, they reported less fatigue, improved mental health. Essentially, what they've done is they've built their own version of daylight, and it works. In a way, they've stopped asking, what time is it? And they started asking, what kind of light is it? And that might sound strange to us, especially if you, like me, feel only half-dressed when you're not wearing a watch. But think about it. We're really creatures of light, not time. Time came later. Clocks are just the illusion that the sun can be tamed. But up here, the sun always wins, as we're about to find out firsthand. But long before clocks, before universities, before labs, and the people of this land already knew how to live with nature's irregular heartbeat. The Sami, the indigenous people of Arctic Europe, have lived in northern Scandinavia for thousands of years. And their timekeeping isn't measured in minutes, it's measured in migrations. You'll hear about reindeer herding in Honningsvåg and the surrounding region, but this isn't just animal husbandry. This is an entire worldview. The reindeer move and the people follow. It's called Boatsoyoktin. It's the seasonal migration. Sometimes 200, sometimes 500 kilometers across icy tundra, through forest, past fjords. In the summer, reindeer graze on coastal pastures. In the winter, they head inland. The rhythm is predictable, but it's not fixed. It depends on the weather, it depends on the herd, it depends on the snow. The Sami word for year, yakti, is tied into this cycle as well. It's not a 12-month period, it's one full migration. And yes, the herders travel by snowmobile now, but the principle itself hasn't changed. Life follows the land. The reindeer are the calendar. When they move, the Sami know what time it is. And I love that, because time doesn't have to be divided into ticks and tocks. It can be a journey, a return, a pulse. But this isn't just about telling the time, not up here, where solar time doesn't really make much sense. There's also an emotional side to it, a sense of rhythm and belonging that goes beyond clocks and calendars. The Sami idea of time is rooted in movement, connection, observation. It's not just about where the sun is, but it's where the animals are. It's where the snow is. What is the land telling you? And what's remarkable is that modern science is now catching up, or at least trying to. In Tromsø, researchers are digging into questions that the Sami have lived with for generations. What happens to the human body when there's no sunrise for weeks? How do we cope when the sun refuses to set? There's even something here called the Polar Night Research Group. It's based at the Arctic University of Norway, and they study the physical and psychological effects of constant darkness on sleep, mood, hormone levels, general well-being. And one of their findings is surprisingly optimistic. People in Tromsø don't get as depressed as you might think. You'd think that the dark season would hit everyone hard, but it turns out that attitude plays a huge role. Those who expect winter to be awful tend to feel worse. But the people who embrace it, who prepare for it, talk about it, even look forward to the quiet of the season, report better mental health, better sleep, and stronger community connections. Which means that maybe the secret isn't avoiding the darkness. Maybe the secret is just knowing how to live with it. And up here, they've been doing exactly that for a very long time. And we'll discover how after we open the portal to collect our next two ports of call, Tromsø and Honningsvåg. So, Tromsø sits over 200 miles north of the Arctic Circle, but life here isn't about isolation, it's about adaptation. For centuries, it's been a hub of Arctic hunters, traders, scientists, and today it's home to one of the youngest populations in Norway. It's a major center for polar research. Long winters, constant summer light, and that unpredictable weather mean that people up here get really good at making their own fun, which is why it's one of the youngest populations of Norway. It's a place where indigenous Sami culture, student life, and scientific research all come together in a city that somehow works even when the sun doesn't show up. And this is a picture of what we can expect on the gangway. It's a pretty bleak gangway, actually. But get somewhat used to this, because in Iceland, they also look a bit like this. Not so many facilities at the port. It's really just a gateway to get on through. This is it on a map. So on this occasion, we will have Melanie's famous shuttle bus service back again. Yeah. We like her shuttle buses. We're going to come in under this bridge. There are two bridges. We're going to be at the big bridge, and then the shuttle bus takes us into Tromsø itself, and there's the smaller bridge that goes across the water nearer to where the shuttle bus drops us off at Frederick Langer's Gate, which is in the heart of the old town. Top 10. The Troll Museum. So the Troll Museum in Tromsø, this is Norway's surprisingly first dedicated troll-themed museum. And it is not just for the kids. It uses augmented reality and storytelling. It dives into the folklore behind Norway's most mischievous creatures, from mountain trolls through to forest spirits. And you'll learn how trolls have shaped local myths, children's books, tourist souvenirs. Everything seems to come back to these trolls. It's interactive, playful, it's surprisingly informative about something which actually doesn't exist. It blends fantasy with real cultural history. So whether you're into Norse legends, you just want a photo with a life-size troll, it's a really fun stop, a quirky look at something that Norwegians have used in their storytelling to make use of the wild and rugged landscape here. The Polar Museum tells the gritty, fascinating story of Arctic life and survival. It's housed in an old customs warehouse, which was built in 1830, and it focuses in on the explorers, the seal hunters, the trappers, and the scientists who braved some of the world's harshest conditions. This isn't a glamorized version of polar adventure. This is packed with real tools, with real diaries, stories of hardship, of endurance. And you'll learn about famous Norwegian explorers, of course, here, like Roald Amundsen, but also the lesser-known people, the ones who have lived off the land and sea in this far north. It's small, but it's well done, and this is an ideal place for you if you're curious about Arctic history. Polaria is an Arctic-themed visitor centre. It's just a short walk from the centre of Tromsø. It's part aquarium, part science exhibit, and it's designed to help people understand life in these polar regions. It's both above and below the ice, so you're going to see all sides of this area. The main attraction, though, are the bearded seals, and they swim right past these glass walls in the centre's panoramic tank inside. Fascinating architecture as well. You'll find films about the Northern Lights, about Svalbard, interactive exhibits on climate change, displays on polar research. It's educational, but it's not too technical. So it's a really good option for anybody who wants to know what actually lives in these Arctic waters. Okay, one more museum for now, and then we're going to go somewhere a bit different. The Nord-Norsk Kunstmuseum, or the Northern Norway Art Museum, focuses in on visual art from the north, especially looking at traditional landscapes, and then they've also got some contemporary installations inside here as well. It's not huge, but it punches above its weight. It's got smart, well-curated exhibitions that often explore life, identity, and environment here in the Arctic. You'll see work by Sami artists alongside classic Norwegian painters, and there's usually something thought-provoking going on here. It's quiet. It's easy to navigate because it's not that huge, and it offers a different view of the north, less about survival, more about expression and meaning. We're going to go right close to the cruise ship now, so this is near where we dock. The Arctic Alpine Botanic Garden. It's the world's northernmost botanic garden, and it's surprisingly colourful, even here in the far north. It focuses on hardy plants from the Arctic, also from the Antarctic, and the high-altitude environments. It includes rare species from the Himalayas, the Andes, and of course northern Norway. And entry is free. The garden's open 24/7 in the summer. That's thanks to the midnight sun. It's a peaceful, scenic spot. It's a short walk from the university area. And it's a really great way to see how life clings on in these extreme places. Even people who don't usually like gardens tend to enjoy a walk around this one. And staying right there, if you are wanting to just stay close to the port, you've also got the Northern Norwegian Science Centre. This is ideal if the weather happens to turn against us. This is a hands-on, interactive exhibition. It's got exhibits covering everything from space to the human body. But the real highlight is the planetarium. And they run daily shows about the northern lights. They use the 360-degree dome to explain how and why they appear. It's fun. It's a low-effort way to learn something, especially if you haven't actually seen the aurora in real life. Then this is your closest chance to seeing them on this cruise, because it's now too bright to see them in real life. Anyway, it's great for curious minds. It's really easy to get there. You could walk it or a very short taxi ride across. Nordpissen. What a name. Simply for somewhere scenic, Nordpissen is the northern tip of Tromsø Island. It's a peaceful spot. It's worth seeking out. It's not very far from town, but it feels very remote. This is open sea views, rocky shores, just a handful of locals out walking their dogs. And on a clear day, you can see the Lyngen Alps across the water. If you're lucky, you might even see some sea eagles flying overhead. And there's no admission fee. There's no facilities here, hence the name. Just space to breathe, just a real sense of Arctic calm. Not too calm. It's especially nice in the late evening light when the sky just stretches out, the landscape feels really endless, but I'd rather you just take my word for that. Do come back. This is interesting. It's on the other side of the water. So across the Tromsø Bridge, you're going to spot the Arctic Cathedral. And it's one of the city's most recognizable buildings. Melanie's famous shuttle bus drops you around the corner from a cathedral. But that's not this cathedral. This one was built more recently. This is 1965. It's this bold, angular design inspired by the surrounding mountains and glaciers. Inside, it's simple. It's stark, but it's striking. And you've got these huge stained glass windows at one end. Excellent acoustics in there. It's a working church, but it hosts midnight concerts in the summer. They're beautiful. You've got this sort of glow that's still coming in, this soft glow of that midnight sun coming in through the stained glass windows, gorgeous music inside. It's a short bus or taxi ride from the town centre, or if you want to walk it, it's about a 30-minute walk. It is a little bit uphill, but it's walkable from where Melanie's shuttle bus will drop us off. And if you want to continue out on the other side, you go further from the Arctic Cathedral, you'll find the start of the trail to the Tromsø viewpoint. It's a proper lake structure, but it has got a wonderful reward at the end of it. It's a pretty steep path at points, and it can be muddy in places as well. But after about 45 minutes of climbing, you reach this stunning viewpoint over the city, the mountains, the fjords, and on clear days, it's spectacular. But be warned, even on a clear day, it's often very windy up here, and that breeze will be icy, even in the summer. So you want to bring a jacket. Even if it's sunny, you still bring a jacket. But if you ever come back in the summer season, and the summer season here starts in June, then there's a cable car that can take all of that hiking out, and you can actually see it there. Do you see the little red? That's the cable car, and it will whisk you up in a matter of minutes. But for us, we're just before the start of the season, so we've got to hike it. Let's finish up right close to where the shuttle bus drops us off in a little square just to the south of the cathedral square. And Eidis Hansen Rock is really easy to miss, but it's a meaningful local landmark tucked away here. It's a memorial. It's dedicated to a young lady called Eidis Hansen. She was a young resistance fighter, and she was executed during World War II. And the rock marks the spot where she was killed. 1943, and she was just 20 years old. And there's just a simple plaque. It's pretty quiet, but that makes this place feel very personal. It's really not a tourist attraction. Most people miss it, but it's a powerful reminder of Norway's wartime history and those individuals who stood up against the occupation. It's worth visiting if you're interested in lesser-known local stories with a lasting impact. But the picture I've put up is not of that rock. The picture is of Roald Amundsen, and that is how you're going to know that you are in the right place to look for the rock, because the rock's much quieter as a monument. This is Roald Amundsen, the famous explorer, and his statue is in the middle of that triangular square, which is where you will find the Idis Hansen rock as well. Here they are on a map for you. All right, let's move on now to Honningsvåg. And again, the gangway looks pretty similar. Get used to these style of gangways again from deck 1, A deck. It depends on the tides, so the gangways can move in these ports. And again, not really very many facilities when you get off. But everything's very close here. This is it on a map. And you can see to walk all the way around that little bay to the town centre is 15 minutes, 1 kilometre. And there are things a little closer than that even still. The closest attraction is 62 metres from the ship. Let's get into our top 6. So we're going to start right there, super close. This is 62 metres, 1 minute walk. The Nordkapp Museum, the North Cap Museum. It offers a down-to-earth look at life in the far north. It focuses in on fishing, wartime history, and just everyday life in coastal Finnmark, which is what this area is called. Photos, artifacts, stories from local people. One key section covers the forced evacuation and destruction of this town during World War II, and how the residents then rebuilt it from scratch. It's another small museum. It's nice, it's well presented. It's easy to explore in less than an hour. Great for anybody interested in the human side of Arctic living. Not just explorers, not just the landscapes, but real families, real workers, community resilience. Now on the other side of the bay is Honningsvåg Church. And this is the oldest building in town. It was built in 1885. And it was one of the few in all of Finnmark to survive the devastation of World War II. Because in the winter of 1945, as the German forces retreated, they burned nearly every building in the region. But this church was spared, possibly thanks to local intervention, maybe due to pure chance. But anyway, it became a shelter for displaced residents, and returning to ruins after the war. They came back home. There was nothing in their town except their church that was still standing. Today it's a quiet white wooden church, simple interior, but a powerful story. And it stands as a place of worship still, but also as a real symbol of survival. A little sculpture for you. Bamse, that's the little dog here. It honors a very unusual wartime hero, a St. Bernard dog. And this dog served with the Norwegian Navy in World War II. Bamse means teddy bear in Norwegian. And Bamse became a symbol of loyalty and bravery, known for calming sailors during attacks, even rounding up crew members who'd stayed too long at the pub. He served on the Navy vessel Torod, and that was based in Scotland. And after his death in 1944, he was buried with full military honours. And the statue was placed in Honningsvåg to mark his roots here. A really lovely tribute to a truly legendary dog. This is small, but something inside for you to enjoy. The Gallery West of the Moon in Honningsvåg. It's a distinctive art space run by German-born artist Eva Schmatterer. And she lived in northern Norway for about 20 years. Her work blends local landscapes with these dreamlike, slightly surreal elements, and she often uses collage, printmaking, and layered textures in her work. Her art captures the stillness, the mystery, occasional odd humor of the far north here. The gallery itself is pretty cozy. It's very personal. You've got prints, postcards, originals for sale. So if you are looking for a local souvenir that's maybe something a little bit different, not a magnet from China, maybe this is a place to just have a nosy and have a browse. The Knut Erik Jensen Monument overlooks Honningsvåg from a quiet hilltop, and it honors one of Norway's most respected film directors. He was best known for a film called Cool and Crazy, which was a documentary about a local men's choir. Anyway, the monument itself is pretty modest. It's just a simple sculpture. It's got a plaque on the rock below it, but it's the location that makes it special. The walk up here takes you about 20 to 30 minutes. It's a clearly marked path. It's steep in parts, but it's manageable. But at the top, you're then rewarded with these sweeping views over the town, the harbour, the surrounding landscape, and it's a peaceful spot. It celebrates both local pride and the power of storytelling. And if you're really getting into it at this point, you're just loving the views, you're really feeling that fresh air, then just keep going. The trail climbs higher, the views just get better and better and better. And you can see from number 5, there's that orangish line that runs up the map. That's just going uphill to even better viewpoints. And then, of course, you have North Cape or Nordkapp itself. Often described as the northernmost point of mainland Europe, that's a lie. It technically sits on an island, but that island is linked by a tunnel. Still, it feels like you are on the edge of the world. The plateau rises 307 meters above the Arctic Ocean. You've got these dramatic cliffs, open sea stretching all the way up to the North Pole. There's a visitor center with exhibitions, a cafe, and they've got that famous globe sculpture for that all-important photo that says you made it there. It can be windy. It will be cold. Sometimes it can be misty, even in the summer. But if we get it on a clear day, it's unforgettable. Many people describe this as it's more a feeling than it is a sight, but you'll feel it when you're standing there. And here they are on a map. No shuttle needed here. Let's be honest. Most of us aren't used to planning our lives around the position of the sun. We check our calendars, not the clouds, and up here that approach falls apart pretty quickly. So what can we actually learn from the people who have figured out how to live without the usual rules of time? Well, researchers have been studying it, and some of what they've found might surprise you. Let's start with sleep. You'd think that people in Tromsø would completely lose the plot during the polar night, tossing and turning for weeks with no sunrise to reset their body clocks. But that's not what actually happens. A large population study, which is known as the Tromsø study, looked at sleep habits in adults that live in the Arctic winters, and they found something interesting. While people did report slightly more insomnia in the winter, overall sleep patterns didn't change drastically across the year. They were still getting their 6 to 8 hours, and it turns out that indoor lighting, especially when used strategically, helped keep their circadian rhythms fairly stable. There's even a bit of good news here. People who adapted their routines to match the season, slowing down in the winter, staying more active in the summer, reported better well-being than those who tried to live the same all year round. But it's not all about sleep. The Polar Night Research Group at UiT, the Arctic University of Norway, has been looking at how darkness affects mood, hormones, and daily functioning. And they found that attitude matters more than sunlight. People who expect that dark season to be miserable tend to struggle more, but those who embrace it, those who get outside, they stay socially connected, they stay actively managing their exposure through artificial light, tend to do just fine. And then there are the findings from the animal world, which help us understand just how flexible biology can be in extreme conditions. For example, a 2016 study on Arctic scallops showed that even in complete darkness, the scallops maintain regular daily activity patterns, suggesting that circadian rhythms don't need sunlight to keep ticking. It's as if evolution built a backup plan into the system, a kind of inner compass that can keep us going even when the sun vanishes. We see something similar in reindeer too. During the dark season, reindeer don't show the typical 24-hour rhythms that you'd expect. Instead, they switch to short bursts of activity followed by long rests, completely decoupling from the usual clock. Their biology has adapted to follow the land, not the light. There's a theory, that people in the Arctic develop a kind of mental flexibility, a kind of creative resilience. You have to. When nature doesn't follow your plans, you've got to. A wedding in July might get snowed on. A winter walk might happen in pitch darkness. The Arctic teaches us humility. It's not about conquering the land, it's about adapting to it. And that's what makes this region so interesting. It's not just surviving the cold. It's about building lives, families, music festivals. Yeah, Tromsø has an electronic music scene. And this isn't a place where it just defies predictability. We often imagine the Arctic as barren, but it's rich. Not in gold or oil, although there are those here too, but in ideas, in experiments, endurance. So if there's one big lesson from all of this, it's flexibility is key. Whether you're human, reindeer, or a shellfish, survival up here depends on letting go of that rigid clock and listening to your environment instead. It's not about conquering the dark, it's about learning how to live in it. And that's why I admire this part of the world. It teaches you that normal is negotiable, that light can be more than sunlight, and time can be more than numbers. When you're north of normal, that's when you find out just how adaptable you really are. We weren't born to plug numbers into computer screens or to fly across 8 time zones in 6 hours. But we were born to play in the sunshine. And right now, as we sail into 100 hours of Arctic daylight, you get to decide how to spend them. Enjoy.